And good morning, everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Baggers, joined this morning by Don Showalter, part of USA Basketball's coaching team. Don, without telling your history, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your background and how you got into USA Basketball and what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's first of all, Tim, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the fact that I can be on and share some things with the coaches that are listening. Yeah, I first I played college basketball, high school basketball. It's one of those things where many of us love the game of basketball, and we knew we were going to stay in it some way. And I found out I wasn't good enough to play in the NBA, so I thought, well, I'll go into coaching. But coaching was really my dream from early on. Graduated from an NAIA school, Warburg College in Waverly, Iowa. At that time, it was NAIA, and got a head job right out of college at a really small high school that was 0-36. So I thought,
Wow.
yeah. So being a kid right out of college, we all think we can turn the world around in a matter of days, and same with the coaching world. I thought, well, I'm going to go in and win right away. Well, obviously that's not the case because it takes a lot more than that. So as a young coach, I really had to work hard those first 2 years to get that program turned around a little bit. And that's something I think that young coaches certainly need to be aware of, is that it takes time to go in and coach and do a great job and establish your program. After 2 years, I got a chance to move to a little bigger school that was very had a great basketball tradition, and so I was very fortunate to get that job. And I went there and was there for 8 years. Had some really good success. Went back to my alma mater, which I said I would never do, but it turned out really well for everybody. I played basketball at Mid Prairie and had been gone long enough, and they wanted to know if I was interested in coming back. So after 10 years being gone, I said, well, I'll go back for 3 or 4 years and move on to someplace else. And after 28 years there, that pretty much took my my career to kind of toward the end. And then I ended up at Iowa City High, which is a very, very big school, large school, very diverse school. Ended up my coaching there, which I truly love. So 4 different schools, 42 years of high school coaching. And during that time, I did a lot of things like work basketball camps in the summer, went to clinics where you network with a lot of people. And that's how I got a chance to also do some stuff with USA Basketball, where Coach John Wooden's camps in California, ex-UCLA coach. And, I just wrote a handwritten note, said I wanted to be a counselor or coach right out of college. And fortunately for me, down the road, I got hired on there and worked Coach Wooden's camps for about over 20 years out there. So, people wonder how you get to do different things. I think, if you're not working some camps in the summer and going to some clinics, you're really missing the chance to connect with people. And that's exactly how I got the opportunity to work with USA Basketball.
So really a kind of a combination of networking and learning at the same time.
Yeah, and then obviously you go and people watch you work, and if they like what you do, you get other chances, and so that's my other piece of information I always give to coaches is no matter where you're at, you better do a good job of where you're at if you want to move on to other things. And if you're a fifth grade coach, you better do a great job with those fifth graders, JV coach, whatever it is. That's the most important job you have at that time. And in order to have a chance to get other jobs, that's really important.
Okay, so I want to, before I go into what you do with USA Basketball, I want to go back to your first job where you said you took over a program that didn't win a game the season before. 0-32, I think you said, right?
Yeah, like 2.5 seasons before.
So, a lot of coaches maybe coming in want to go into a winning program, want to go into, a successful legacy in a team. but it doesn't normally happen that way. It's usually the teams that are unsuccessful that are looking to hire. What are some experiences that you had, and advice that you've learned along the way to help turn around a program like that? Because I mean, let's face it, the players haven't won a game.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have that belief, they don't have that confidence that they can do it. How do you turn that around? What did you do to transform that team to make it better?
Yeah, well, I think anytime you take a job like that, you better you better have a trust with your administration. It's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 years to really turn a program around, because
Mm,
that's what it's going to. You can't do it overnight. It's very hard to do that overnight. But I think a couple things really. Um, First of all, it was a great situation because the people there were great. They just wanted a coach who really cared about their kids. And I think that's the number one thing that I went into that job not really knowing. I mean, I was right out of college, so I really didn't know much. I played for a Hall of Fame coach in college and in high school, actually, but uh, now I'm on my own, and so what I was going to do, you really kind of feel your way along day by day. But I think I think just caring about the kids really. I look back on those 2 years, and that was the thing that really spurred, I think, making that program where we actually won some games that first year, and we're better the second year, because the people there, the parents there, they really, they were 0-36 or whatever it was, so they really didn't have an idea what winning program was like, but they certainly knew if the coach cared about their son. And I think as I look back on that, those are some of the things that I look at. And my wife was a big part of that. I mean, we had kids over to the house. We did things as a team, and we just showed that we really cared about the kids. And I think that was probably the number one thing. And then the trust factor. I always go back. If kids trust you as a coach, they're going to really do some things that you don't expect out of them for the positive. Trust is a big thing between players and coaches,
mm,
and players and players. And I always tell coaches now, I said, be sure whatever you promise, you better come through on. Whether it be a pair of socks or winning a free throw contest in practice, or you promise a kid he's going to start if he makes so many baskets in practice. Whatever you promise, you better come through with, because that starts to develop trust. And so I think the
mm,
longer I coached, I found out really I made less promises and delivered more, and that kind of set the tone. So I think caring and trust, those first 2 years were at the top of the list.
mm. When you look at coaching, you've been doing it for decades, and one of the conversations I had with a coach yesterday was a discussion about how athletes have changed over time and how coaching has to change because of that.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Did you have to adapt the way you coach based on the different generations that you've
Yeah.
coached?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I adjusted what I coached, but I think I adjusted to what was the surroundings of the kids. I mean, with the social media and everything else going on, I think as a coach, you really have to adjust. Maybe you're thinking a little bit about how you're going to motivate players. I think that changed a little bit. I mean, it used to be because I said it. That's why you do it. But now it's not because I said it. It's hey, this is going to help make you a better player, a better person. So I think the motivation has changed a little bit. I'm not so, I, I'm not so sure. I think the players are much better than they used to be. I mean, I go
Yeah.
back 20 years, 30 years. I think players are so much more skilled and really have a tremendous basis for basketball ability. So I think that's changed as well. And I think players deep down you can be challenged from the fact that um, they really want to get better. Players really want to get better, and so I think as a coach, challenging them to get better, giving them some really instructions, and teaching them how to get better, I think is what they kind of delve into. So it's kind of a long answer to your question, but I'm not so sure the kids have changed as much as just what surrounds the kids have changed a lot.
Mm. Now you talked about doing all these camps, and you've been a high school basketball coach, were a high school basketball coach for many years. Now you're involved in USA Basketball. You've been involved for quite some time. You've been very successful on the international stage, coaching um, junior divisions, I guess is the way I would describe it. How do you do that? How is it different to coaching a high school basketball team?
Well, I get asked that question a lot because, first of all, for a coach who came out of coaching some high schools in Iowa to coaching on a big stage with the U16, U17 players in USA Basketball was really an honor for me. And I coached guys like Jason Tatum and Colin Sexton and Brad Beal and Quinn Cook, and the guys are in the NBA right now, Jabari Parker, Joel for they've all been through our program. So that was obviously a great honor for me to be included in that group to coach them. And I would say that what has helped me the most is just be the person you are. And I really tell new coaches this all the time: don't be somebody you aren't. I mean, you can't be a coach the way somebody else coaches. You have to be who you are, and I think you try to really build some standards with the players, the standards of trust and caring and respect. I think that goes a long way in developing the players that you have that are exceptional players at the international level. I mean, again, we've had players that play for us that make our team the top 12 have really a goal of playing in the NBA.
Hmm.
So whatever we can do to help them do that, I think is really important. And then we bring in about 40 kids for a training camp and pare that down to 12 that travel with us. So
I imagine paring down 40 super talented kids down to 12 is a pretty awful experience in many ways.
it really is. And we certainly tell players that this isn't an all-star contest where it's not like the McDonald's all-star game. We have to make a team.
Mm.
So our 12th player, we need to have our 12th player buy into what we're doing. And some of the guys that we've had that were our 12th guys, like Justin Anderson, who just played the other night. For the Nets. Scored 12 points and had 6 rebounds, and he was our 12th guy. But they have to be able to accept their role, and that's huge with anything for players to accept the role that they're put into. So we have to make the best team. We can't have 12 all-stars and expect to have a good chemistry or a good culture with with those. So that's a hard job for us. I mean, that's the biggest job we have with those kids, is to develop our chemistry and develop our culture with that.
So how do you do that? I mean, this is a problem for any coach, right? Who,
Right.
whether it's high school or college or anybody, I've got these players. Some of them won't be playing. Some of them can't be on my team because they don't have the talent or the work ethic.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Do you work with other coaches? Do you make a group decision? What's the process?
Well, I mean, obviously, this skill takes precedence, so you have to have skilled
Sure.
players. But there's so many of them that are skilled. We look at we look at basically communication is the utmost. As I go back, if I would say one thing to coaches who are just getting into coaching, the one thing that I would go back and do better job of is communication as a young coach. And you don't really realize how important that is, but you communicate with players, you communicate with parents, you communicate with your other coaches, your administration, and I think that's one thing I would do a better job of in my first 2, 3, 4 years. Is just better communication. And so coaches going out for the first time being coaches, you can't over communicate enough. And now in today's age with texts and emails, it's easy to do that with parents, as well as keep in touch with your players outside of the practice schedule. So I think communication is really the top priority. And then secondly, you really need to figure out how you're going to build trust with the players. And that trust, because once they trust you, players will really be motivated to perform, I think, for not only for the coach, but just for themselves and for their teammates. And that trust can come in a lot of different ways. It can come from maybe just on the court, where as a coach during a practice, I may call out a player during practice and tell him what a great job he did getting a rebound. I might say, Billy, that was a great rebound. So all of a sudden now they develop their roles. His role thinks, man, you know what? If I keep getting rebounds, I may be able to make this team or get some more playing time. And then I'm very big on using players' names in practice. Not just saying, hey, that was a great rebound. I say, Joe, that was a great rebound that you just had. I think to me, that's important to build trust. Now they have that feeling that you really do care about them, because you call them out by their first name. So again, there's just some little things that as a young coach, I wish I would have done more of. But those are some of the things to build trust. Again, I think also when players actually understand that you're there to make them better, they just feed off that. I go back to guys like Jason Tatum, who's an all-star now with the Boston Celtics. He if you told him something, he would just take that to heart, because he knew that deep down we were wanting what was best for him and making him a better player. So I think those things all kind of go into working with each other, motivation as well in that aspect of it. But trust, communication is huge with whatever we do, I think, in any occupation.
Now, you start off your career in a losing season, right, with a team that hasn't been successful. And now you find yourself in an environment where you have all these amazing players who you have to put together and win a gold medal. And it's not a case of, parents who are like, wow, we won a game. It's USA Basketball saying, Coach, we expect gold.
Yeah.
How do you handle that pressure, knowing that the expectation is there to bring home, you should be winning. This is USA Basketball.
Yeah. I think the FIBA, which is the governing body of international basketball, started the U16, the junior national team program, in 2009. And none of us in USA Basketball really knew much about the junior national team, how we were going to do it. So I think we all kind of got started together on it. And that first team had Brad Beal, Andre Drummond, Quinn Cook, Michael Gilchrist, who are all really high-level NBA players. And I think we were just fortunate to get the right players to be on our team. And then I think the more you win, and if you're in coaching long enough, the more you win, the more pressure there is. And I also go the other way. The more you lose, the more pressure there is. So I think it works both ways. But the pressure is really from, I think, more internal than it is external. So, I mean, I felt as I kept coaching, the junior national team for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, each year was a little more pressure build up because of the pressure I put on myself. I didn't want to let the kids down. I didn't want to let our organization down. Those kind of things all enter into the fact that I probably worked harder the last 3 or 4 years with basketball than I have ever had in my life, just because I wanted to make sure that we were totally prepared for international competition and brought home a gold medal, which, like you said, everybody expected. That was the expectation that goes into it. So pressure comes from, I think, first of all, I think it comes from within. But young coaches, I think you just need to go day by day. I mean, you can't look down the road too far and say, I want to do this we need to get this done here in the next 2 weeks. I think you just go day by day and say, here's what we're going to do today, and we're going to make sure we do it well. We're going to make sure that we take each day from the standpoint of putting some really effort into that day and improving our players and our coaches.
You're watching Don Showalter, part of USA Basketball's coaching team. If you have a question for him, put it in your chat box. We do have one for you, Coach. It's from Coach Vega. It says, when you have many elite athletes, what are some of the things you do to build team chemistry?
Yeah, well, I think there's a definite difference. To answer that question, chemistry and culture, to me, are two different things.
Okay.
Chemistry is how individuals within a team work with each other, get along with each other. Culture is how that team is organized, and what that team does. So the chemistry, I think, is a little bit different to build a team chemistry, because some players get along naturally with other players easier than maybe you'd think they would. But I think that the chemistry aspect comes from a coach who is a great leader in the aspect of what they do on and off the court. So if we're going to have great chemistry with our team, first of all, you really don't show favoritism. Everybody's got a best player, but that best player needs to understand that you have the same expectations for him on and off the court as you do for player number 15. I think also recognizing players that don't play for you much on the court is huge in building chemistry. So I might take my 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th man and really build him up in practice and say, Johnny, you had a great practice today. Even though you're maybe not playing much for us, you are a definite help to our team getting better. And so they hear that conversation, and it goes back to communication. That builds a great chemistry, I think, between players and players and players and coaches. And then I'll go one step further. You can do this with their parents as well. Coaches that haven't coached yet are going to find out that parents want to be a very integral part of your program, and you can't shut them out with that. You have to let them be a part of that program. So the chemistry you build with the team, I think, goes directly with the parents as well. And I'll email a parent after a practice, maybe from a player who doesn't play much for me, and just say, your son Johnny had a great practice today. He may not play much for us, but he certainly made our team better today. Mm-hmm. And so now they get the idea of where you're coming from as a coach, but also that chemistry then is built because that player knows that you have a lot of respect for what he's doing, even though he's not playing much on game day. So I think that goes into a lot of building chemistry with your players. And then the culture part of it is I define culture as just how you do things. Here's how we do things. You're expected to have your shoes tied when you step on the court, and 5 minutes before practice. That's a culture thing, I think. So those things all enter into developing a team, and probably more so than actually the X's and O's, what you do on the court. They have more effect. So that was a great question too, by the way.
Now, you've coached high school, different programs. You've coached USA Basketball. You've done camps. You've worked with some amazing people. You've coached some amazing athletes. Great life. Everybody should do it. It's just, this is the dream, right? But I suspect that it's not all, wonderful, and there's definitely some challenges in coaching and some bad experiences and some tough situations. And I wonder if you could maybe share one or two just to show the realities of being a coach.
Well, as with any job, you have certain aspects of that job that really can take on a whole new life of itself by what happens on maybe during a season. I think some of the things that really I look back on, um, as a young coach, probably things that uh, have hurt what I've been trying to do is, again, just lack of communication. I think it goes back to, uh, if you player says, well, if you told me that, I would have been, I could have had a better experience or whatever. So I think it really goes back to a lot of communication. Uh, Parents are going to be a part of what you do in your program, and I think you can't shut parents out because their son or daughter is part of your program. Uh, I always say that when you talk to a parent about their son or daughter, you're really talking about two different people. As a coach, I'm talking to that parent about somebody who's a part of the team of 15 that I'm trying to mold into being the best they can become. To that parent, I'm talking to them about this is the most important player on your team. That's my son or my daughter that I love very much. So you have to understand that there's really a disconnect there between when you talk to parents about that son or daughter. And I think that helped me more than anything when I was finally figured that out, that you're not really talking about the same person. And then I think, as a young coach, I think administrators, certain administrators are going to be very much a positive influence for you and help you out. There's going to be other administrators who listen to parents way too much, and if you lose a game here or there, they're going to have too much influence on your path to coaching. So, as a young coach, which I didn't even think of, the administration part to it, the administrators. I think just the openness. I keep going back to communication because I think that's really where it starts with that. I really been pretty fortunate over the years. I've had some issues with parents, but they've all been issues where I think that as I got to be a more experienced coach, I could certainly deal with those better by communicating how we were working with things, and our standards are pretty high, and so for our team, so we have pretty high standards as far as what the players expect. And again, if the players are happy, most of the time the parents are going to be relatively happy, whether they're number 12 or 13th player. If those players feel they're a part of your program, their parents are going to buy into that. And so I think that's another thing that really helped me as a coach. So kind of a long answer to your question, but uh,
Oh, it's good.
and I think you have to be prepared as a coach. I think you have to be really prepared for uh, when things are kind of taking a nosedive. If you lose 3 or 4 games in a row, what are going to be the repercussions from that? You're playing the wrong players. So I think as a coach, you really have to be strong in what you feel is the best thing for your team, and don't be shifting just because you lose a game or two. You go back to what your standards are, and I think too many young coaches, in my estimation, they put way too much emphasis on winning and losing, uh, because and that's why they get out of it. You have a bad year where you might lose 15, 16 games. Why, if your only goal is to win, then you're going to get out of coaching, which is unfortunate. So I think winning is really an objective. It's not a goal. That should never really be a goal. It should be an objective of what you're doing. But your process on a day-to-day basis is really your goal. Hey, can we get better today? How can I make an impact on my players today? How can I show them I care today? How can I show them that I can trust them today? And I think that carries over. And you have to let winning and losing take care of itself. If you don't, you're going to go crazy as a coach because that's really the winning part to it is great. But again, if that's the only reason you're in coaching, you're going to be in coaching for the wrong reason.
And you probably won't last too long either, I
No,
suspect.
no.
Now, given the fact you've been in situations which you described where maybe you go on a losing streak or you get pressure from parents
Sure.
or administration, whatever it may be. I suspect throughout your coaching career, you've experienced some stress and some of those moments. How do you cope with that? Because coaches at any level, even in recreational leagues, can experience stress, pressure from parents or players for playing time. You name it, it's there. How do you kind of handle that? What do you do to kind of mitigate those stressors?
Yeah, I think again, the longer I coached, I think I did a much better job of eliminating the stressful part. But first of all, my wife had a lot to do with my coaching. She certainly was there for me after big wins and tough losses, and so I think you need to have. Not that my wife is a mentor, but I think coaches need to have a mentor. Could be somebody older than them. I mean, I had, as a young coach, I had several mentors that I picked up the phone and just talked to because they've been through it. So after you go through a losing 4 or 5 stretch, you really need to have a mentor that you can call and say, hey, here's what's happening. Help me through this. And so that's really been a stress reliever, I think, for me over the years. Even with USA basketball, when I didn't think things were going quite the way I wanted them to, with our training camps or even in competition, there's some mentors that I could call and say, hey, can I visit with you about here's what's going on, and can you give me some hints? So I think that is huge from a coaching standpoint. Is get yourself a mentor that has been through what you're going to go through or what you've been through, and they can really help you through many things that you try and get through yourself, and you just can't really do it because you've never been there before. But a mentor can certainly help you through that. And then I think schedule. The process is a stress reliever. Hey, we're going to get better today. We're going to have a great practice today, and not going to worry about a week from today. I think that's to me that's a stress reliever. That I'm just going to do the best job today I can do. I'm not going to worry about what other people think. I'm not going to worry about anything else. I'm just going to do the job I can do. And I think that's a big stress reliever. So young coaches just getting in the game, you get a mentor, just do your job on a day-to-day basis. And that's the process that you need to take. And sometimes what you have to do is really, as well, I think, you need to do some things for yourself, exercise, read a book that doesn't have anything to do with sports or basketball. I'm a big World War II guy. I love to read World War II books, General Patton type books, and just things like that. I think to me are really stress relievers, and so those are some of the things I think have been helpful for me.
Last question. You've been involved in coaching across different levels, but you've also seen a lot of international coaching as well.
Yeah.
And seen a lot of teams being coached. You've worked with some amazing coaches yourself. You talked about Wooden as an example. If you were to provide advice that you haven't already shared, you've shared a lot of advice, by the way, in this for coaches who are looking to kind of improve themselves at any level, what advice do you have within coaching and within basketball that you would want to give or share on?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I get that asked a lot too. I think first of all, coaches can go on the internet and get drills, and I mean, you can get anything you want to help your team, and I think those are good. But it's really not. It goes back to it's not what you teach, it's how you teach it. And so when you look at the internet drills and stuff, you don't really get an idea of how that drill or how that aspect of basketball is being taught. So I think for me, I would suggest you work some really good camps. I mean, I worked 5-star, I worked John Wooden's camp, I worked camp called Snow Valley, which I now run in Iowa. Those are teaching camps. You see how coaches teach defense. You see how, they teach shooting. And so I think it's really important that coaches find out how they're being taught. So that's the first thing I would do. And then I still think live clinics are really important. They're not very prevalent anymore. I mean, there's not a lot of live clinics. USA Basketball we have 6 what we call coaching academies every year, during normal years, of course.
Right.
But so I think going to a live clinic is really helpful. We have a lot of people that have been to our clinics that now are volunteers for us. So that's one way. Another way to get not only see how things are going, but you get a great system of networking. And I think in the game of basketball, if you really want to improve, I think the networking, it gives you possible mentors down the road. It gives you uh, possible job interviews down the road, or you can use them for recommendations. I mean, just numerous things, but that you really lose out on if you don't go in person and work camps or go to clinics. And then I think, to me, that's the most important thing. And I think the last thing is for coaches would be, again, build your own. I would call it library of drills and basketball X's and O's, and because as a high school coach, or as a junior high coach, middle school coach, 5th grade coach, you are not going to have the same players year after year.
Right.
So you have to adjust your game to the players you have coming up. And I think so many of us, hey, our system is we're going to press man to man regardless of who we got. Well, that's good. Sometimes, some years, that's a good way to get beat by 50 points too. You have to adjust your game to the players you have, and so I think that's really an important aspect for youth coaches. And then USA Basketball has a lot of resources. We have, if I may mention them, we have go online at usab.com and get our gold license, which gives you can listen to 250 academy speakers that we've had throughout the years. We have a curriculum, so if you're coaching 5th grade boys or girls team, you have an idea of how to teach, what to teach at that level. Obviously, it's different than teaching at a 9th grade level because they don't. You have to really progressively teach, and so you get a chance to get our curriculum as well. So usab.com, look for our gold license. Goes year by year. The new year starts October 1st. And I think that's something huge that coaches should do, not only to get the resources, but also to expand the game. Just be a part of making the game better for everybody.
Thank you so much for your advice. And I know people watch this afterwards, whether it be through our podcast or YouTube. If somebody does have a question for you, maybe they weren't able to do it live today.
Yep.
What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty heavy on Twitter at dshow23. We can communicate via that, or my email address, dshowalter@usabasketball.com. I think it's on the screen there if everybody can see that. But at dshow23 and my Twitter handle, and Showalter@usabasketball.com. Feel free. I mean, that's what I do. I coach education, so basically I'm answering coaches' questions 7 days a week, sometimes 24 hours a day from all over the world. So it's a great job, and I love doing it. So feel free to email me anytime, especially young coaches. I get a lot of young coaches that great conversation with, and try to mentor a little bit as well. So feel free to contact me, and I'm very approachable, and I will get back to you very soon on either one of those.
And I can, of course, attest to that. And I want to say thank you for joining me today and sharing a little bit of your wisdom with everyone watching and everyone who hopefully watches down the road. Thanks,
Tim. I really appreciate what you're doing as well at Florida State University. I think anytime anybody's growing the game, in the long run, it's going to be better for our whole country.
Also, just a reminder, coming up next week, Steve Collins is joining us on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. He's the head coach of women's swimming and diving at Southern Methodist University. Very long time. He served there a long time, very successful. Hope you'll join me for that. If his picture is anything to go by, it should be an entertaining interview. So hope you join me for that. But on behalf of myself, Tim Baghurst, and Don Showalter, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.